The Galactic Council chamber erupted in laughter as Dr. Harry Evans, the human physician, proposed his treatment for the dying Andromedan. Sneers and dismissive looks greeted him from all sides. The alien representatives, each a different shade of contempt, made no effort to hide their disdain for the human in their midst. Harry stood firm, his eyes fixed on the withering form of Xanth, the Andromedan patient lying on a medical platform at the center of the vast domed room. Xanth's plant-like body trembled, bioluminescent tendrils dimming with each labored breath. The bark-like exoskeleton, once a vibrant tapestry of colors, now appeared dull and lifeless. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called to address the mysterious ailment ravaging the Andromedan population. Despite their reputation as an unsightly species, the Andromedans were vital to the galactic ecosystem. Their decline threatened the delicate balance of interstellar relations. Harry had been summoned to present his groundbreaking research on xenobotany. His work, though revolutionary on Earth, was met with skepticism and outright hostility by the council members. The prejudice against humans and Andromedans alike was palpable in the chamber. "We waste our time with this primitive species," a counselor from the Rigelian Empire hissed. "What can a human possibly know about advanced xenobiology?" Harry ignored the jabs, focusing instead on the task at hand. He approached Xanth, activating his advanced medical instruments. The devices hummed to life, scanning the alien's unique physiology. Suddenly, alarms blared. Xanth's vital signs plummeted, sending the council into chaos. Shouts filled the air as members argued over the human's presence. "Remove him at once," demanded a gelatinous being from the Andromeda galaxy. "No, let him try," countered a silicon-based lifeform. "We have nothing to lose." Harry tuned out the noise, his mind racing. He had one chance to prove humanity's worth and save Xanth's life. With steady hands, he retrieved a vial from his medical kit. Inside swirled a luminescent green liquid, an experimental treatment he had developed based on his xenobotany research. The chamber fell silent as Harry prepared to administer the treatment. He knew the risks. If he failed, not only would Xanth die, but humanity's standing in the galactic community would be irreparably damaged. Earth's fledgling interstellar relations hung in the balance. Harry took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. He locked eyes with the Council's High Arbiter, a towering, multi-limbed being radiating authority. "I can save Xanth," Harry declared, his voice unwavering. "But I need your permission to proceed with an experimental treatment." The High Arbiter's compound eyes narrowed, assessing the human before them. After a tense moment that seemed to stretch for eternity, they nodded. With the Council's reluctant approval, Harry turned back to his patient. He carefully inserted the vial into his medical apparatus, calibrating the dosage for Xanth's unique biology. As he prepared to administer the treatment, Harry felt the weight of countless alien eyes upon him. In this moment, he represented not just himself, but all of humanity. The outcome of his high-stakes intervention would determine far more than Xanth's fate. It would shape the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. Harry took one final breath, steadied his hand, and began the treatment. The fate of two species now rested in his hands. Harry's fingers trembled slightly as he pressed the activation button on his medical apparatus. The luminescent green liquid flowed through a series of tubes, making its way towards Xanth's withering form. The chamber fell into an eerie silence, broken only by the soft hum of the device and Xanth's labored breathing. As the experimental treatment entered Xanth's system, Harry monitored the alien's vital signs with unwavering focus. For several tense moments, nothing seemed to change. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, Xanth's bioluminescent tendrils began to pulse with renewed energy. "Look!" shouted a silicon-based counselor, pointing a crystalline appendage towards the medical platform. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices as Xanth's bark-like exoskeleton slowly regained its vibrant hue. Shades of deep purple and iridescent blue spread across the Andromedan's body, replacing the dull, lifeless pallor. Harry allowed himself a small smile as he continued to fine-tune the treatment. He adjusted the flow rate and composition of the medication, responding to subtle changes in Xanth's physiology. The medical instruments beeped and whirred, providing a constant stream of data that only Harry seemed able to interpret. Gradually, Xanth's vital signs stabilized, settling into a rhythm that Harry recognized as healthy for the alien species. The Andromedan's chest rose and fell with steady, unlabored breaths. The once dimming tendrils now glowed with a soft, pulsating light. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber as Xanth's eyes fluttered open. The Andromedan's gaze, unfocused at first, settled on Harry. In that moment, an inexplicable connection formed between the human doctor and his alien patient. Harry gently supported Xanth, helping the Andromedan into a sitting position. "How are you feeling?" he asked softly, unsure if Xanth could understand him. To his surprise, Xanth responded with a series of soft chirps and clicks. Though Harry couldn't comprehend the alien language, he found himself grasping the meaning intuitively. Gratitude, relief, and a hint of curiosity radiated from the Andromedan. The High Arbiter's voice boomed across the chamber, silencing the murmurs of the council members. "Dr. Evans, your treatment appears to have been successful." The multi-limbed being's tone carried a mixture of grudging respect and lingering skepticism. "However, one case does not prove the efficacy of your methods." Before Harry could respond, Ambassador Zorn of the Rigelian Empire stepped forward. The diplomat's sleek avian features were set in a thoughtful expression. "Esteemed colleagues," Zorn addressed the council, "I propose we grant Dr. Evans temporary authority to treat other Andromedan patients suffering from this ailment. Only then can we truly assess the value of his contribution." The chamber erupted once more in a flurry of debate. Voices argued back and forth, some supporting Zorn's proposal while others vehemently opposed it. Harry stood his ground, one hand still supporting Xanth, as alien representatives argued over his fate. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the High Arbiter raised all four of their upper limbs, calling for silence. "The Council has reached a decision," they announced. "Dr. Evans will be given the opportunity to prove the effectiveness of his treatment on a larger scale. He will be escorted to a nearby medical facility to continue his work." Relief washed over Harry, but he knew the real challenge was just beginning. As a team of alien medical personnel prepared to transport Xanth, the Andromedan reached out, grasping Harry's arm with a tendril. A series of gentle chirps and clicks emanated from Xanth. To Harry's astonishment, he found himself understanding the alien's request. Xanth wanted to accompany him, to assist in treating the other Andromedans. Harry nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for the unexpected ally. Within the hour, Harry found himself standing in a vast medical ward, filled with rows of ailing Andromedans. The sight was both awe-inspiring and heartbreaking. Hundreds of plant-like bodies lay in various stages of deterioration, their once vibrant colors muted and lifeless. With Xanth by his side, Harry moved from bed to bed, adapting his treatment to each patient's specific needs. He worked tirelessly, adjusting dosages and fine-tuning the medication's composition based on individual physiologies. Xanth proved to be an invaluable assistant, communicating with the patients and providing insights into Andromedan biology that Harry's research had missed. As the hours passed, more and more Andromedans began to show signs of recovery. Tendrils that had been limp and colorless began to pulse with light. Bark-like skin regained its luster. The ward, which had been filled with the sound of labored breathing, now hummed with the soft chirps and clicks of awakening patients. News of Harry's success spread rapidly through the facility. Alien medical staff, initially wary of the human doctor, now watched in amazement as he worked. Some even approached him, tentatively at first, to offer assistance or ask questions about his methods. As Harry treated a particularly severe case, he felt a gentle tap on his shoulder. He turned to see a towering insectoid alien standing behind him. The being's compound eyes shimmered with an intelligence that made Harry's breath catch. "Dr. Evans," the alien said, its mandibles clicking softly as it spoke. "I am Dr. Zilk Sivarn, Chief Xenobiologist of the Trizalian Collective. We have received reports of your work here, and, I must admit, I am impressed." Harry nodded respectfully, keenly aware of the Trizalians' renowned expertise in alien physiology. "Thank you, Dr. Zilksvarn. I'm just doing what I can to help." The insectoid scientist's antennae twitched with curiosity. Your methods are unorthodox, but undeniably effective. The Trisalian Collective has been grappling with a similar plant-based epidemic on our colony worlds. Perhaps we could discuss a potential collaboration. Before Harry could respond, a commotion near the ward's entrance caught his attention. A group of council members, led by a scowling Zorgon representative, were engaged in a heated discussion with the facility's security personnel. Xanth, who had been assisting a newly awakened patient, glided over to Harry. The Andromedan's tendrils curled with concern as she observed the confrontation. "What's going on?" Harry asked, his voice low. Xanth's response came in a series of hushed chirps and clicks. Harry's eyes widened as he processed the information. It seemed not everyone was pleased with his rising influence in the galactic medical community. As Harry contemplated the implications of this new development, he became acutely aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The lives of countless patients hung in the balance, and now it appeared he had made some powerful enemies. With a deep breath, Harry turned back to his patient, determined to continue his work despite the looming threat. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them head-on, armed with his knowledge, his compassion, and the unexpected alliance he had formed with Xanth. Little did he know, as he focused on saving lives, that sinister forces were already setting plans in motion that would test him in ways he could never have imagined. As Harry focused on saving lives, unaware of the sinister forces setting plans in motion, the night slowly gave way to dawn. The first rays of an alien sun filtered through the medical facility's windows, casting long shadows across the rows of recovering Andromedan patients. Dr. Harry Evans returned to the ward, his eyes tired but determined after a brief rest. As he entered, he found Xanth waiting for him, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsating with an excited glow. The sight brought a small smile to Harry's face, a moment of warmth in the clinical environment. "Good morning, Xanth," he said, his voice low to avoid disturbing the resting patients. "Ready for another day?" Xanth responded with a series of soft chirps and clicks, which Harry had begun to interpret as enthusiasm. Together, they started their morning rounds, checking on the Andromedans who had received treatment the previous day. As they moved from bed to bed, Harry noticed something odd. Several patients who had shown significant improvement yesterday were now displaying signs of distress. Their tendrils, which had regained vibrant colors, were once again fading to dull hues. "This doesn't make sense," Harry muttered, frowning as he checked the vital signs of a particularly affected Andromedan. "The treatment should be—" His words were cut short by a sudden, sharp beeping from a nearby piece of equipment. Harry rushed over, his hands flying across the control panel as he tried to stabilize the malfunctioning device. Just as he managed to silence the alarm, another machine across the room began to emit a high-pitched whine. "Xanth, something's wrong," Harry said, his voice tight with concern. "These relapses, they're not natural. And now the equipment—" As if in response to his words, the lights in the facility flickered ominously. Harry's mind raced, connecting the dots between the patient relapses, equipment malfunctions, and the confrontation he had witnessed the previous day. "We need to check the medical supplies," he said to Xanth, already moving towards the storage area. "I have a feeling this isn't a coincidence." Together, they began a thorough inspection of the treatment vials and medical devices. Harry's suspicions were quickly confirmed as he discovered subtle signs of tampering: altered seals on medication containers, microscopic scratches on delicate instruments, and barely perceptible changes in the color of the treatment formulas. "Sabotage," Harry breathed, his heart sinking. "Someone's actively working against us, Xanth. But why? Who would want to harm the Andromedans?" Xanth's tendrils curled in what Harry had come to recognize as distress. Suddenly, she extended one tendril towards a nearby shelf of medications, her bioluminescent patterns shifting rapidly. Harry watched in fascination as Xanth moved from one vial to another, her natural ability to sense chemical imbalances, allowing her to identify which supplies had been contaminated. As they worked to isolate the tampered items and prepare fresh treatments, Harry noticed a group of unfamiliar medical staff entering the ward. Something about their movements set him on edge. They moved with a purpose that seemed at odds with the typical routines of the facility. His suspicions were confirmed when he overheard snippets of their conversations with patients and other staff members. They were spreading misinformation, speaking in hushed tones about severe side effects and dangers associated with the human doctor's treatment. Causes irreversible damage to Andromedan neural pathways. Human arrogance, thinking they understand our biology better than we do. The whispers spread through the facility like a virus, sowing seeds of doubt and fear among patients and staff alike. Harry felt the growing weight of distrust pressing down on him, seeing it reflected in the wary glances cast his way. Just as the situation seemed to be spiraling out of control, Ambassador Zorn strode into the ward, his avian features set in a look of concern. The Rigelian diplomat took in the scene of chaos, malfunctioning equipment, distressed patients, and the palpable tension in the air. "Dr. Evans," Zorn's voice cut through the din, "I demand an explanation for this disarray." Harry straightened, meeting the ambassador's gaze. "Sir, I believe we're dealing with a case of deliberate sabotage. I've found evidence of tampering with our medical supplies and equipment. Someone is trying to undermine our efforts to help the Andromedans." As Harry spoke, he noticed one of the new medical staff, a being with shadowy, shifting features, move closer, its posture tense and alert. The creature spoke, its voice smooth and persuasive. "Ambassador, if I may," it interjected, "we've observed numerous patients experiencing severe adverse reactions to the human's treatment. Perhaps Dr. Evans is simply unwilling to admit the limitations of his primitive methods." Harry felt a surge of frustration. "That's not true. The relapses only began after the sabotage." His protests were drowned out by a sudden commotion as several Andromedan patients began to convulse, their tendrils thrashing wildly. The contaminated treatments were taking their toll, pushing the already weakened aliens into a critical state. Without hesitation, Harry rushed to the nearest patient, calling out instructions to Xanth and the few staff members he still trusted. They worked feverishly, administering emergency care and stabilizing the affected Andromedans. As Harry moved from one critical patient to another, he was vaguely aware of raised voices behind him. The Zorgon representative, Krell, had arrived, his rasping voice filled with righteous indignation. "This is unacceptable," Krell hissed. "The human clearly has no control over the situation. I demand that he be removed immediately and our Zorgon medical team take over. We have centuries of experience with plant-based physiologies." Harry tuned out the political maneuvering, focusing entirely on saving his patients. Beside him, Xanth worked tirelessly, her empathic abilities proving crucial in calming the panicking Andromedans and allowing Harry to administer the necessary treatments. After what felt like hours, the immediate crisis was averted. The affected patients were stable, their tendrils once again pulsing with a steady, if subdued, light. Harry turned, exhausted but resolute, to face Ambassador Zorn and the assembled alien representatives. Zorn's expression was unreadable as he spoke. "Dr. Evans, while your quick action just now was commendable, the fact remains that this facility has descended into chaos under your care. The Zorgon proposal to take over has merit." Harry felt a cold dread settling in his stomach. He opened his mouth to argue, but Zorn held up a hand to silence him. "However," the ambassador continued, "given the progress we've seen prior to today's incidents, I am willing to give you one last chance. You have 24 hours to prove, beyond any doubt, that your treatment is both effective and safe. If you fail, Earth will lose its opportunity to contribute to galactic medicine, and you will be sent home in disgrace." The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Harry's shoulders. He knew that the consequences of failure extended far beyond his personal reputation. The future of human-alien relations hung in the balance. Taking a deep breath, Harry made a decision that would alter the course of his life and potentially change the face of galactic medicine forever. "Ambassador Zorn," he said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment, "I propose a demonstration. I will administer an improved version of my treatment to myself, proving its safety beyond any doubt." A shocked murmur rippled through the assembled aliens. Xanth, standing at Harry's side, emitted a series of distressed chirps, her tendrils curling in obvious concern. As the implications of his proposal sank in, Harry noticed movement in his peripheral vision. The shadowy figures who had been spreading misinformation earlier were huddled together, their forms seeming to ripple and shift as they conferred in hushed tones. Unaware of the new danger brewing, Harry began preparations for his risky self-experiment. Xanth, despite her clear apprehension, insisted on assisting, her loyalty unwavering in the face of the challenges ahead. As word of the impending demonstration spread, the medical facility became a hive of activity. Representatives from various alien species arrived, eager to witness the outcome of this unprecedented event. The atmosphere crackled with tension and anticipation. In the midst of the preparations, the shadowy agents made their move. With practiced stealth, they accessed the treatment formula, adding a potent neurotoxin specifically designed to target human biology. Their plan was set: discredit the human doctor by causing him severe harm during the public demonstration, thereby eliminating the threat he posed to their hidden agenda. As the hour of the demonstration approached, Harry and Xanth made their final preparations, unaware of the lethal sabotage that awaited them. The fate of Dr. Evans, the Andromedan patients, and humanity's standing in the galactic community hung by a thread, about to be tested in ways they could never have imagined. As Harry prepared to administer the treatment to himself, a hush fell over the assembled crowd. Alien representatives of various species watched with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, their varied physiologies creating a kaleidoscope of colors and textures against the sterile backdrop of the medical facility. Xanth stood by Harry's side, her tendrils gently pulsating with a soft, concerned glow. She chirped softly, a sound Harry had come to interpret as a mix of support and worry. He gave her a reassuring nod before turning to face the onlookers. "I will now demonstrate the safety and efficacy of our treatment," Harry announced, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. He lifted the vial containing the iridescent liquid, unaware of the lethal sabotage it had undergone. With a deep breath, Harry pressed the injector against his arm. The device hissed as it delivered its payload into his bloodstream. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, Harry's world exploded into chaos. A searing pain erupted behind his eyes, quickly spreading throughout his nervous system. His vision blurred, the faces of the alien observers melting into a swirl of indistinct colors. Harry's legs buckled beneath him, and he collapsed to the floor, his body racked with violent tremors. Gasps and exclamations of shock rippled through the crowd. Ambassador Zorn stepped forward, his avian features contorted with alarm. "Get medical assistance immediately," he ordered, his normally measured voice sharp with urgency. Xanth let out a high-pitched trill of distress, rushing to Harry's side. Her tendrils extended, hovering just above his convulsing form. As an empath, she could sense the chemical chaos raging within his body. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted rapidly, reflecting her growing horror as she realized the extent of the sabotage. Krell, the Zorgan representative, seized the moment of crisis. "This is precisely what we feared," he rasped, his scaled form seeming to swell with righteous indignation. "The humans' primitive methods have not only failed, but have proven catastrophically dangerous. We must take control now, before more lives are lost." But Xanth wasn't listening to the political maneuvering. Her focus was entirely on Harry, whose skin had taken on an alarming pallor. Drawing on the knowledge she had gained from working alongside him, she began to formulate a desperate plan. "We need Andromedan enzymes," she chirped urgently to the bewildered medical staff. "And Earth-based antidotes, quickly!" As the team scrambled to follow her instructions, security alarms blared throughout the facility. On monitors around the room, footage began to play, showing shadowy figures tampering with the treatment vials. Ambassador Zorn's eyes narrowed as he recognized the Shadow Root agents. "Arrest them immediately," he commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "And detain Krell as well. It seems we've uncovered a conspiracy." Krell's eyes widened in panic. He turned to flee, but facility security was already closing in. In moments, the Zorgon representative was restrained, hissing threats and denials as he was led away. Meanwhile, Xanth worked feverishly over Harry's prone form. The mixture of Andromedan enzymes and Earth antidotes was ready, but as she prepared to administer it, she hesitated. Something wasn't right. The compound was close, but not quite enough to counteract the potent neurotoxin ravaging Harry's system. In that moment, Xanth made a decision that would change the course of galactic medicine. Drawing upon her own plant-like biology, she began to synthesize a unique compound within her body. Her tendrils glowed with an intensity never before seen as she channeled all her energy into this task. The gathered aliens watched in awe as Xanth's form seemed to shimmer and pulse. Droplets of a glowing, opalescent liquid began to form at the tips of her tendrils. With precise movements, she added these droplets to the antidote mixture, creating a solution that bridged the gap between human and Andromedan biology. Without hesitation, Xanth administered the new treatment to Harry. For several agonizing moments, nothing seemed to change. Harry's body continued to spasm, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The assembled crowd held its collective breath, the fate of human-alien medical cooperation hanging in the balance. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, Harry's convulsions began to subside. Color returned to his face and his breathing steadied. Xanth, her tendrils still hovering over him, let out a series of soft, hopeful chirps. Minutes stretched like hours as everyone waited to see if the treatment had truly worked. Finally, Harry's eyes fluttered open. He blinked, disoriented, his gaze focusing on Xanth's concerned face hovering above him. "Xanth," he croaked, his voice weak but clear. "What happened?" A wave of relief washed over the room. Ambassador Zorn stepped forward, his expression a mix of amazement and respect. "Dr. Evans," he said, "you have just survived an assassination attempt, and in doing so, demonstrated the remarkable potential of human-alien medical collaboration." As Harry slowly sat up, supported by Xanth's gentle tendrils, he became aware of the changed atmosphere in the room. The alien representatives who had viewed him with suspicion now looked on with newfound respect and curiosity. Ambassador Zorn cleared his throat, addressing the assembled crowd. "In light of these events, I propose the establishment of a galactic medical exchange program. Dr. Evans and Xanth have shown us the power of combining our knowledge and abilities. It's time we embrace this potential on a larger scale." The proposal was met with murmurs of approval from the gathered aliens. Even those who had been skeptical of human involvement in galactic affairs now saw the benefits of cooperation. As the implications of this new development sank in, Harry turned to Xanth. He saw her in a new light, understanding the depth of her commitment and the extraordinary measures she had taken to save his life. A complex mix of gratitude, admiration, and something deeper stirred within him. "Xanth," he said softly, "I don't know how to thank you. What you did, it was incredible." Xanth's tendrils curled in a gesture Harry had come to recognize as her equivalent of a smile. She chirped softly, conveying emotions that transcended the barriers of their different species. As Harry began to stand, still a bit unsteady, he was flooded with plans and ideas. The Galactic Medical Exchange Program opened up a universe of possibilities. He and Xanth could refine their combined treatment methods, potentially helping countless beings across the galaxy. But as he looked around the room, noting the arrested Shadow Root agents and the absent Krell, Harry realized that their path forward wouldn't be without obstacles. The exposure of corruption within the Galactic Council hinted at deeper, more complex conflicts yet to be uncovered. As the medical facility buzzed with renewed activity and hope, Harry and Xanth stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to revolutionize interstellar medicine. Little did they know, the remnants of the Shadow Root Syndicate were already regrouping, their thwarted plans only fueling their desire for revenge against the human doctor and his Andromedan partner, who had disrupted their carefully laid schemes. Plans for the human doctor and his Andromedan partner who had disrupted their carefully laid schemes. In the weeks following the dramatic events at the medical facility, Dr. Harry Evans and Xanth found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The newly established Galactic Medical Exchange Program had gained unprecedented support from various alien species, all eager to contribute their unique biological knowledge to the cause. As they prepared for their first official mission under the program, Harry couldn't help but notice a shift in his relationship with Xanth. Their shared experiences had forged a bond that transcended mere partnership. He found himself drawn to her otherworldly grace, the way her tendrils swayed with each movement, and the soft bioluminescence that pulsed beneath her translucent skin. Xanth, too, seemed more attuned to Harry's presence. Her empathic abilities picked up on the subtle changes in his emotions, and she often found herself extending a tendril to brush against his arm or shoulder in moments of shared triumph or concern. Their destination was Thalassia, a remote planet dominated by vast azure oceans. As their ship entered the planet's atmosphere, Harry pressed his face against the viewport, marveling at the endless expanse of water below. "It's beautiful," he murmured. Xanth chirped in agreement, her tendrils curling with excitement. "The Thalassians are an ancient species," she explained, her translator conveying the awe in her voice. "Their cities lie beneath the waves, hidden from the surface world." As they descended towards a floating platform that served as the planet's spaceport, Harry's expression grew serious. "The epidemic has hit them hard. We need to work fast." The Thalassian greeting party awaited them on the platform. Tall, slender beings with iridescent scales and webbed appendages, they moved with fluid grace, even on land. Their leader, a female named Zara, approached with evident relief. "Dr. Evans, Xanth, we welcome you to Thalassia," she said, her voice a melodious trill. "Our people suffer greatly. We fear for our very survival." Harry nodded gravely. "We'll do everything in our power to help. Can you take us to the most affected areas?" As they boarded a submersible vessel, Xanth's tendrils began to pulse with an agitated rhythm. She turned to Harry, her large compound eyes reflecting concern. "Something is wrong," she whispered. "The ocean, it's in pain." Harry frowned, trusting Xanth's unique perception. As the submersible descended into the depths, the extent of the crisis became apparent. The once vibrant coral structures were bleached and dying, and schools of fish floated listlessly, their movements sluggish and uncoordinated. Zara's voice was heavy with sorrow as she explained, "The sickness started in the deepest trenches and spread rapidly. Our best scientists are baffled." Harry and Xanth exchanged a determined look. They had faced seemingly insurmountable challenges before and emerged victorious. This would be no different. Over the next few days, they set up a floating research station, converting an abandoned oil platform into a state-of-the-art laboratory. Harry worked tirelessly, analyzing water samples and studying the affected marine life. Xanth used her plant-based biology to commune with the local ecosystem, seeking to understand the underlying imbalance. As they worked side by side, their growing affection manifested in small, tender moments. A lingering touch as they passed each other equipment, a shared smile of encouragement during late-night research sessions, the comfort of each other's presence in moments of frustration. On the 5th day, Harry made a breakthrough. He burst into the main lab, his eyes wide with excitement. "Xanth, I found something!" The Andromedan glided to his side, her tendrils curling with curiosity as she examined the holographic display. Harry pointed to a series of molecular structures. "This toxin, it's not natural. It's a byproduct of deep-sea mining operations. Someone's been extracting resources illegally, and it's poisoning the entire ecosystem." Xanth's bioluminescence flared with understanding. "That explains the distress I've been sensing from the marine life. But who would do this?" Before Harry could respond, an alarm blared through the station. Red warning lights bathed the lab in an ominous glow. "Security breach detected," an automated voice announced. "Unknown entities have boarded the orbital station." Harry's blood ran cold as he remembered the shadowy figures from their previous encounter. "The Shadow Root Syndicate," he breathed. "They've found us." Xanth's tendrils coiled protectively around Harry's arm. "We need to warn the others and secure our research." As they rushed to lock down the lab, Harry's mind raced. They were on the verge of a solution that could save Thalassia, but the looming threat of the Shadow Root Syndicate threatened to unravel everything they had worked for. Little did they know, high above in Thalassia's orbit, a ruthless mercenary named Vex was already setting in motion a plan that would push them to their limits and test the strength of their newfound bond. The race to save Thalassia had begun, and the fate of an entire world hung in the balance. The alarm continued to blare as Harry and Xanth raced to secure their research data. Suddenly, the station shook violently, nearly knocking them off their feet. Through the reinforced windows, they saw a massive Thalassian warship descending from orbit, its sleek aquadynamic shape glistening in the planet's twin suns. This situation just got a lot more complicated. Harry muttered, his fingers flying over the holographic interface as he initiated emergency lockdown protocols. Xanth's tendrils pulsed with agitation. Harry, I sense multiple presences approaching. They're not just shadow root agents. Before Harry could respond, the lab's main door hissed open. A squad of Thalassian soldiers poured in, their scaled bodies adorned with high-tech armor that seemed to shimmer like the ocean's surface. At their head strode a tall, imposing figure with intricate patterns etched into his iridescent scales. I am Commander Zale of the Thalassian Defense Force, he announced, his voice carrying the melodious undertones characteristic of his species. You will explain your unauthorized presence on our world and the cause of this disturbance immediately. Harry stepped forward, hands raised in a placating gesture. Commander, I'm Dr. Harry Evans, and this is my colleague, Xanth. We're here as part of the Galactic Medical Exchange Program to help combat the epidemic affecting your oceans. Zale's eyes narrowed, the nictitating membranes flicking across them in rapid succession. And the alarm? The unauthorized craft approaching our orbital station? Shadow root agents, Xanth interjected, her translator conveying the urgency in her chirps. They've been conducting illegal deep-sea mining operations, poisoning your oceans. We discovered their involvement and... A thunderous explosion cut her off. The station rocked violently, and alarms blared with renewed intensity. Station hull breach detected, the automated system announced. Emergency containment measures activated. Through the chaos, Harry noticed something strange happening in the ocean below. Massive wave patterns were forming, creating intricate, symmetrical designs visible even from their vantage point. Bioluminescent creatures were swarming in unprecedented numbers, their lights pulsing in coordinated patterns. Xanth, he breathed, are you seeing this? The Andromedan's tendrils quivered with excitement. It's communicating. The ocean itself is trying to speak to us. Commander Zale barked orders to his troops, directing them to secure the station's perimeter. He turned back to Harry and Xanth, his expression a mix of suspicion and grudging curiosity. Explain, now. Harry's mind raced, drawing connections between their research, the toxins, and the strange behavior of the marine life. Commander, I believe we're witnessing the emergence of a collective consciousness. The marine life of Thalassia has somehow evolved, possibly as a response to the toxins and our experimental treatments. Xanth moved closer to the window, her tendrils splaying out as if reaching for the ocean below. They're calling themselves the Oceanic Collective. They want to help us understand, to bridge the gap between all parties involved. Skepticism flashed across Zale's features, but before he could respond, the station shuddered again. The lights flickered, and for a moment the only illumination came from Xanth's bioluminescent glow and the pulsing patterns in the ocean below. We need to establish communication with the collective, Harry said, his eyes scanning the damaged lab. Xanth, can you use your empathic abilities to make a connection? The Andromedan nodded, her form already beginning to pulse with increased intensity. Harry turned to the Thalassian commander. We'll need some of your equipment. With Xanth's biology and your advanced technology, we might be able to create an interface. Commander Zale hesitated, torn between his suspicion of the off-worlders and the undeniable strangeness unfolding around them. Finally, he nodded to one of his subordinates. Assist them, but know that if this is some form of deception, the consequences will be severe. As they worked feverishly to construct a makeshift communication device, the conflict outside intensified. Through the station's monitors, they could see shadow root ships engaging with Thalassian forces, while beneath the waves, colossal shapes moved with unnatural coordination. With a final adjustment, the cobbled-together device hummed to life. Xanth placed her tendrils on the interface, her entire form beginning to glow with an intensity Harry had never seen before. The ocean outside erupted in a dazzling display of bioluminescence, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. Suddenly, Xanth's translator began to speak, but the voice that emerged was unlike anything they had heard before. It was a chorus of countless voices, harmonizing in a way that sent shivers down Harry's spine. "We are the Oceanic Collective," the voice proclaimed. "We have awakened to protect our world and to bridge the divide between species. We offer knowledge and seek understanding." Commander Zale stepped forward, his earlier skepticism replaced by awe. "How is this possible? What do you want from us?" The collective's response came in a flood of information, overwhelming in its scope and detail. It revealed the full extent of the Shadowroot Syndicate's illegal operations, the damage done to Thalassia's ecosystem, and the unexpected consequences of the combined toxins and experimental treatments. As the implications sank in, Harry's eyes widened. "Commander, the collective is offering to help us cleanse the oceans. With their network and Xanth's unique biology, we could create a planet-wide filtration system." Xanth's glow intensified, her tendrils weaving complex patterns in the air. "I can channel my energy through the collective, accelerating the detoxification process exponentially." Hope surged through Harry, but it was quickly tempered by concern as he noticed the strain already showing on Xanth's plant-like body. The process would put an enormous burden on her systems, potentially risking her life. Before he could voice his concerns, a new alarm blared. The station's AI announced in its calm, detached voice, "Warning, tectonic destabilization detected, planetary integrity compromised." Through the windows, they watched in horror as massive plumes of steam erupted from the ocean's surface. The Shadowroot agents, cornered and desperate, had activated some kind of doomsday device. Commander Zale roared orders to his troops, coordinating with his warship to combat the immediate threat. Harry turned to Xanth, seeing the drive in her compound eyes and feeling a surge of emotion he couldn't fully comprehend. "Xanth, we need to find a way to stop this," he said, grasping her tendrils gently, "but not at the cost of your life." The Andromedan's response was cut short as the station lurched violently. The sound of tearing metal filled the air, and warning klaxons reached a fevered pitch. The last thing Harry saw before the floor gave way beneath them was the ocean rushing up to meet them, alight with the pulsing glow of the Oceanic Collective. As they plunged into the turbulent waters of Thalassia, Harry knew that the true test of their abilities, their partnership, and the future of interspecies cooperation was only just beginning. As they plunged into the turbulent waters of Thalassia, Harry felt the shocking cold envelop him. His lungs burned as he fought the instinct to breathe. Beside him, Xanth's bioluminescent form pulsed rapidly, her tendrils wrapping around him protectively. The ocean surged around them, filled with the pulsing light of the Oceanic Collective. Through the chaos, Harry caught glimpses of massive shapes moving with purpose, the awakened marine life responding to the crisis. Suddenly, a sleek Thalassian vessel appeared beside them. Its hull split open, revealing a pressurized chamber. Harry and Xanth were pulled inside, gasping as the water drained away. Commander Zale's scaled face appeared on a nearby screen. "Dr. Evans, we've secured you and your colleague. The situation is critical. What's our next move?" Harry's mind raced, processing the information from the Oceanic Collective and formulating a plan. "We need to coordinate our efforts. Xanth, can you maintain the connection with the collective?" The Andromedan's tendrils waved in affirmation. "The link is stable, but the strain is significant." "Commander," Harry said, turning to the screen, "we need your forces at key points around the planet. The collective can guide them to the areas of greatest tectonic instability." As Zale barked orders to his troops, Harry worked feverishly, combining Thalassian technology with his own medical equipment. He created a series of devices that looked like a cross between acupuncture needles and deep-sea probes. "These will help redirect the harmful energy," he explained to Xanth and the Thalassian crew. "We'll use the collective's network to place them at critical junctures." The next hours were a blur of activity. Thalassian ships raced to position, guided by the collective's vast intelligence. Harry's devices were deployed, piercing the ocean floor at precise locations. All the while, Xanth maintained her connection, her plant-like body glowing with increasing intensity. As the planetary acupuncture took effect, the ocean began to change. New species of marine life appeared, evolving rapidly in response to the altered conditions. These hybrid creatures, born from the fusion of Thalassian biology and Xanth's influence, instinctively worked to stabilize their environment. Harry watched in awe as a school of bioluminescent fish with plant-like appendages swarmed around a fissure in the ocean floor, their bodies absorbing the toxic emissions. Nearby, a massive kelp-like structure stretched for miles, its tendrils pulsing with energy as it redirected subsurface currents. But the strain on Xanth was becoming unbearable. Her once vibrant colors had faded, and her tendrils trembled with exhaustion. "Harry," she chirped weakly, "I can't maintain the connection much longer." The human doctor faced an impossible choice. Pushing forward could save Thalassia, but cost Xanth her life. Stopping now might save her, but doom the planet and its inhabitants. In that moment of crisis, Harry made a decision that would change everything. He grabbed a nearby medical scanner and began reconfiguring it at a frantic pace. "Xanth, I have an idea," he said, his voice tight with tension. "It's risky, but it might be our only chance. I'm going to create a temporary symbiotic link between us. It'll allow me to share the burden of interfacing with the collective." The Andromedan's compound eyes widened. "Harry, the physiological differences, it could kill you." "We don't have a choice," he replied, finalizing the modifications. "Are you ready?" At Xanth's nod, Harry activated the device. Pain lanced through his body as his nervous system connected with Xanth's alien biology. His mind expanded, merging with her consciousness and, through her, the vast intelligence of the oceanic collective. The effect was immediate and staggering. Harry's human perspective combined with Xanth's empathic abilities, creating a synergy that amplified their connection to the collective. He could feel the planet's pain, the chaotic energy threatening to tear it apart. But he could also sense the potential for healing, the delicate balance that needed to be restored. Through their shared consciousness, Harry and Xanth guided the collective with unprecedented precision. The hybrid marine life responded with increased efficiency, accelerating the detoxification process. Tectonic plates shifted back into alignment, guided by the planet's awakened ecosystem. Commander Zale's voice cut through their shared trance. "Dr. Evans, Xanth, we're detecting significant improvements in planetary stability, but we have a new problem." Harry struggled to focus on the commander's words as the vast ocean of shared consciousness threatened to overwhelm him. What is it?" "A corporate fleet has entered the system," Zale reported, his voice grim. "They're here to protect their illegal mining operations and eliminate evidence. We're mobilizing our defenses, but we're stretched thin." Through the collective, Harry and Xanth sensed the approaching threat. But they also felt something else, the oceanic collective's growing influence extending beyond the planet's waters. "Commander," Harry managed to say, his voice strained from the effort of maintaining the symbiotic link. "The collective, it's interfacing with your technology. It can help enhance your defenses." As Zale and his forces prepared for battle, Harry and Xanth delved deeper into their shared consciousness. The human Andromedan symbiosis pushed them to the brink of their endurance, but it also granted them a moment of startling clarity. In that instant of heightened awareness, they glimpsed fragments of a larger conspiracy, shadowy connections between the Shadow Root Syndicate, the corporate raiders, and corrupt elements within the Galactic Council itself. The implications were staggering, hinting at a web of deceit that spanned the galaxy. But before they could fully process this revelation, a new crisis demanded their attention. The Shadow Root agents, taking advantage of the chaos, had commandeered a Thalassian vessel and were attempting to escape. Their flight path put them on a collision course with the incoming corporate fleet. As the corporate ships entered Thalassia's orbit, Harry and Xanth reached a critical juncture in their symbiosis. The strain on their bodies was reaching a breaking point, but the planet's transformation was not yet complete. New land masses were emerging from the stabilizing tectonic activity, creating hybrid ecosystems that blended Thalassia's aquatic nature with Xanth's Andromedan influence. Harry felt his consciousness beginning to fragment, torn between the vast ocean of the collective and the urgent needs of his individual self. He knew they needed to find a way to safely separate their symbiotic link while maintaining the delicate balance they'd established. As the corporate fleet began its assault on Thalassia's defenses, Harry and Xanth faced the monumental task of untangling their merged consciousness without losing control of the collective. The fate of Thalassia, their own lives, and perhaps the future of the entire sector hung in the balance. Through their shared awareness, they sensed Commander Zale coordinating the planet's defenses, the oceanic collective enhancing Thalassian technology in ways never before imagined. The hybrid ecosystems continued to evolve, offering tantalizing glimpses of revolutionary advancements in xenobiology and terraforming. But time was running out. As energy beams from the corporate ships lanced through Thalassia's atmosphere, Harry and Xanth knew that their next actions would determine not just the outcome of this battle, but the shape of things to come in this corner of the galaxy. A blinding flash erupted from the symbiotic link between Harry and Xanth. The intensity of their connection reached its peak, and in that moment, their consciousness began to unravel. "We need to disconnect," Harry gasped, his voice strained with effort. "Xanth, on 3. As they initiated the separation process, waves of pain coursed through their bodies. The last thing Harry saw before his vision faded was Xanth's form collapsing beside him, her bioluminescence flickering erratically. Commander Zale's voice cut through the haze of unconsciousness. "Secure Dr. Evans and the Andromedan. Medical team, report to the command center immediately." Harry drifted in and out of awareness, catching snippets of chaos around him. The rumble of explosions reverberated through the ship's hull as Thalassia's defenses engaged the corporate fleet. Through the fog of his semi-consciousness, he sensed a shift in the planet's energy. The oceanic collective was taking control. When Harry finally regained full consciousness, his first coherent thought was of Xanth. He turned his head, wincing at the effort, and saw her lying on a medical bed next to him. Her plant-like body seemed different, altered in subtle ways he couldn't immediately identify. "Xanth," he croaked, reaching out to her. As his hand touched her tendril, a jolt of awareness passed between them. Harry gasped, realizing he could sense her thoughts, her very essence. Xanth's compound eyes flickered open. "Harry, I can feel you in my mind." Before Harry could respond, he caught sight of his arm. Patches of his skin glowed with a faint bioluminescence, reminiscent of Xanth's natural radiance. "What's happened to us?" A Thalassian medic approached, her scaled face etched with concern. "Dr. Evans, your symbiosis with the Andromedan has caused unprecedented physiological changes in both of you. We're still analyzing the full extent of the alterations." Harry sat up, fighting off a wave of dizziness. "We don't have time for analysis. Commander Zale, what's our status?" The commander's face appeared on a nearby screen, his expression grim. "The corporate fleet has begun its assault. Our defenses are holding for now, but we're outnumbered and outgunned." As if in response to Zale's words, the ship shuddered under the impact of enemy fire. Harry turned to Xanth, their newfound telepathic link humming with shared purpose. "We need to get back to work," Harry said, both aloud and through their mental connection. Xanth nodded, her tendrils weaving patterns of commitment in the air. Together they made their way to the command center, their movements becoming more synchronized with each step. As they entered, the view screen showed a scene of beautiful chaos. Massive waterspouts rose from Thalassia's oceans, slamming into the corporate ships and disrupting their formations. "The oceanic collective," Xanth breathed, her voice filled with awe. "It's protecting the planet." Harry focused his thoughts, reaching out through their residual connection to the collective. He felt its vast intelligence, now operating independently, but still guided by the template they had created together. A sudden alarm blared through the command center. "Incoming transmission," a Thalassian officer announced. It's from the Shadowroot vessel." The screen flickered, revealing the haggard face of a Shadowroot agent. "Dr. Evans," the agent said, his voice tight with desperation, "we have information about the corporate fleet's weaknesses. We're willing to trade it for amnesty." Harry and Xanth exchanged a glance, their linked minds rapidly assessing the situation. "Send the data," Harry replied, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "We'll discuss amnesty after we've verified its usefulness." As the information streamed in, Harry and Xanth worked in perfect synchronization, their enhanced abilities allowing them to process and analyze the data at an unprecedented speed. Through their telepathic link, they formulated a plan, their thoughts flowing seamlessly between human intuition and Andromedan logic. "Commander," Harry said, turning to Zale, "we need to coordinate with the Oceanic Collective. If we can generate precisely targeted underwater shockwaves, we can take out their shield generators." Zale nodded, quickly relaying orders to his fleet. As the Thalassian ships maneuvered into position, Harry and Xanth focused their combined will, guiding the collective's actions with surgical precision. The ocean beneath the corporate fleet began to churn, building in intensity until massive shockwaves erupted from the depths. The energy pulses slammed into the enemy ships, overloading their shield generators in a cascade of destruction. "Shields down on multiple vessels," a Thalassian officer reported, her voice tight with excitement. "They're vulnerable." As Zale coordinated the counterattack, Harry's attention was drawn to the planet's surface. The view screen showed newly formed islands emerging from the sea, their shores already teeming with exotic plant life. "Xanth," he said, his voice filled with wonder, "look at the rate of growth. Those plants, they're unlike anything I've ever seen." Xanth's tendrils waved in agitation. "The corporate fleet, they're changing tactics. Look!" Sure enough, several enemy ships were breaking off from the main assault, descending toward the new landmasses. "They're after the hybrid flora," Harry realized. "Commander Zale, we need to protect those islands." Zale's face tightened with frustration. "We're stretched thin as it is, Dr. Evans. I don't have the forces to split between space combat and ground defense." Harry's mind raced, the bioluminescent patches on his skin pulsing with increased intensity. Through his link with Xanth, he sensed a solution forming in the collective consciousness they shared. "The new plant life," he said slowly, his eyes widening with realization. "It's not just exotic, it's reactive. Xanth, if we can interface with it through the collective, we might be able to create a natural defense system." As they reached out to the evolving ecosystem, a tremor ran through the ship. Alarms blared, and the Thalassian sensors lit up with urgent warnings. "Energy surge detected," an officer shouted over the chaos. It's coming from the planet's core." Harry and Xanth staggered under the psychic backlash, their linked minds overwhelmed by a rush of new awareness. As they struggled to process the flood of information, they realized the true magnitude of what they had set in motion. "The planet," Xanth whispered, her voice filled with awe and trepidation. "It's becoming sentient." Before they could fully grasp the implications of this development, a new alert sounded. "Unidentified vessel entering the system," a Thalassian officer reported. It's a Galactic Council science ship." Harry met Xanth's compound gaze, both of them acutely aware of the growing complexity of their situation. As the corporate fleet regrouped, the Galactic Council ship approached, and Thalassia itself continued its unprecedented evolution, they knew that their next decisions would shape the future of not just this world, but potentially the entire galaxy. "We need a plan," Harry said, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "And we need it fast." Xanth's tendrils curled in agreement, her thoughts aligning with his through their telepathic bond. As they turned to face the mounting challenges, the fate of Thalassia hung in the balance, awaiting the outcome of the battles to come, both in space and on the transforming surface of the awakening world. Harry and Xanth exchanged a determined look, their newfound telepathic link humming with shared purpose. As they turned to face the mounting challenges, a sudden tremor shook the command center, nearly throwing them off balance. "Energy surge detected," a Thalassian officer shouted. "It's emanating from the planet's core." Harry felt a rush of awareness flood his consciousness, amplified by his connection to Xanth. Through their shared perception, they sensed a vast, awakening intelligence stirring within Thalassia itself. "The planet," Xanth whispered, her tendrils quivering with excitement and trepidation. "It's becoming sentient. Before they could fully process this revelation, another alert sounded. "Unidentified vessel entering the system," reported a sensor operator. "Galactic Council markings. It's a science ship." Commander Zale's face tightened with concern. "As if we didn't have enough to deal with. Dr. Evans, what's our next move?" Harry closed his eyes, focusing on the telepathic link he shared with Xanth. Together, they reached out to the emerging consciousness of Thalassia, their minds brushing against an alien intellect of staggering complexity. "We need to interface with the planet's consciousness," Harry said, opening his eyes. "Xanth and I might be able to guide its defenses." Zale nodded, quickly issuing orders to clear the command center. As the room emptied, Harry and Xanth positioned themselves at the center, their bodies glowing with intensifying bioluminescence. They joined hands, Xanth's tendrils intertwining with Harry's fingers. The connection between them deepened, and suddenly they were plunging into the vast ocean of Thalassia's mind. Images flashed before them, coral reefs pulsing with electric life, deep-sea trenches harboring ancient secrets, and the newly formed islands teeming with hybrid flora. But beneath it all, they sensed a presence, curious, powerful, and fiercely protective. "Thalassia," Harry projected, his thoughts echoing through the psychic link. "We need your help." The planet's response came not in words, but in a surge of primal energy. Harry and Xanth guided this raw power, shaping it with their combined knowledge of human ingenuity, Andromedan biology, and the Oceanic Collective's vast intelligence. On the interfaces around them, the Thalassian officers watched in awe as massive structures began to rise from the depths of the planet's oceans. Towering spires of living coral and crystalline formations erupted from the waves, forming an intricate network around the planet. "By the depths," Zale breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "What are those?" "Thalassia's immune system," Xanth replied, her voice strained with effort. "A planetary defense network." As the corporate fleet regrouped for another assault, the sentient structures sprang into action. Pulses of energy radiated from the towering spires, washing over the approaching ships. Alarms blared throughout the enemy fleet as their weapons systems and engines suddenly went dark. "Their ships are disabled," an officer reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. They're retreating." Harry and Xanth maintained their connection with Thalassia, guiding its defenses to create an impenetrable barrier around the planet. As the immediate threat subsided, they became aware of new developments on the surface. The hybrid ecosystems were evolving at an exponential rate. New species of plants and animals were emerging, each more extraordinary than the last. Through their link with the planet, Harry and Xanth observed creatures with incredible healing abilities, plants capable of rapid terraforming, and even primitive life forms that could communicate directly with Thalassia's sentient structures. The medical implications of these new species are staggering, Harry thought. His scientific curiosity piqued despite the ongoing crisis. Xanth's response carried a note of caution. "We must protect them. Others will seek to exploit these discoveries." As if in response to her concerns, a new alert sounded. The stolen Thalassian vessel, carrying the Shadowroot agents, was making a desperate attempt to escape the system. Its flight path took it dangerously close to one of the newly formed islands. "They're after samples of the hybrid flora," Harry realized. He turned to Commander Zale, breaking his psychic immersion. "We need to stop them before they can escape with those samples." Zale nodded grimly. "I'll assemble a team. But Dr. Evans, what about the Galactic Council ship? They're requesting permission to send a research team to the surface." Harry exchanged a look with Xanth, their minds racing in tandem. "Allow it," he said after a moment's consideration. "We'll need their help to understand and protect what's happening here. But first, we need to deal with the Shadowroot agents." As Zale coordinated the deployment of Thalassian forces, Harry and Xanth prepared to join the mission to apprehend the Shadowroot agents. They made their way to the hangar bay, their movements in perfect synchronization. "Are you ready for this?" Harry asked as they boarded a sleek Thalassian transport. Xanth's tendrils curled in agreement. "Together, we can face anything." The transport lifted off, soaring through Thalassia's turbulent atmosphere. As they approached the newly formed island where the Shadow Root vessel had crashed, Harry and Xanth marveled at the alien landscape below. Forests of iridescent vegetation stretched as far as the eye could see, punctuated by crystal formations that seemed to pulse with inner light. Strange creatures darted through the underbrush, their forms defying easy classification. The transport touched down near the crash site, and Harry led the Thalassian soldiers into the alien terrain. They moved cautiously, aware that every plant and animal around them was an unknown quantity. As they neared the Shadow Root vessel, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. A group of sentient plants, offshoots of Thalassia's defense system, had surrounded the crash site. The Shadow Root agents were engaged in a tense standoff with these bizarre life forms, clutching their stolen samples protectively. Harry stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I'm Dr. Harry Evans," he called out. "I'm here to negotiate a resolution to this situation." The lead Shadow Root agent, a scarred human with cybernetic implants, eyed him warily. "What kind of resolution did you have in mind, Doctor?" As Harry began to outline his proposal for amnesty in exchange for cooperation, he sensed a shift in Thalassia's planetary consciousness. The Galactic Council science vessel had entered orbit, bringing with it new possibilities and potential complications. Harry knew that the next few hours would be crucial. The fate of Thalassia, the future of human-alien relations, and the very nature of planetary evolution hung in the balance. As he continued his negotiations with the Shadow Root agents, he felt Xanth's reassuring presence in his mind. Together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, their unique bond serving as a bridge between worlds and species. The story of Thalassia was just getting started, and its next chapter promised to reshape the galaxy in ways no one could have imagined. Predicted. Harry took a deep breath, steeling himself for the complex negotiations ahead. As the tense standoff with the Shadow Root agents continued, a sudden tremor shook the island. The ground beneath their feet pulsed with an otherworldly energy, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with an unseen force. "What's happening?" demanded the scarred Shadow Root leader, his cybernetic eye whirring as it scanned the surroundings. Harry and Xanth exchanged a knowing look, their telepathic link humming with shared understanding. "It's Thalassia," Harry explained, his voice filled with wonder. "The planet's transformation is accelerating." As if in response to his words, the landscape around them began to shift. The iridescent vegetation grew at an impossible rate, twisting and intertwining to form intricate structures. Crystal formations erupted from the ground, their facets pulsing with inner light. A Thalassian officer's communicator crackled to life. "Dr. Evans," Commander Zale's voice rang out, "we're detecting massive energy fluctuations across the planet's surface. The Galactic Council ship is requesting immediate contact." Harry nodded to Xanth, their thoughts aligning. "Tell them we're on our way," he replied. Turning to the Shadow Root agents, he said, "I suggest you come with us. What's about to happen concerns all of us." As they made their way back to the transport, the island continued its rapid transformation. New life forms emerged from the undergrowth, creatures that defied easy classification. Some appeared to be a fusion of plant and animal, while others seemed to phase in and out of physical reality. The flight back to the Thalassian Command Center was nothing short of surreal. Through the transport's viewports, they witnessed the planet's metamorphosis in real time. Massive structures rose from the oceans, dwarfing even the defensive megastructures they had created earlier. Upon arrival, they were greeted by a flurry of activity. Commander Zale stood at the center of the command deck, his face a mask of awe and concern. "Dr. Evans, you need to see this," he said, gesturing to the main view screen. The image before them took Harry's breath away. Rising from the depths of Thalassia's largest ocean was a colossal bioluminescent structure. It pulsed with a mesmerizing rhythm, its surface rippling with patterns of light that seemed to convey complex information. "It's beautiful," Xanth whispered, her tendrils swaying in response to the sight. A new voice cut through the awed silence. "Dr. Harry Evans, I presume?" Harry turned to see a tall, elegant woman with silver hair and piercing green eyes. She wore the distinctive uniform of a Galactic Council scientist. "Dr. Lyra Vex," she introduced herself, extending a hand. lead researcher of the Council's Xenobiology Division. I must say, when I received reports of a newly sentient planet, I was skeptical. But this, she gestured to the view screen, this is beyond anything we've encountered. Before Harry could respond, a low vibration filled the air. The bioluminescent patterns on the massive structure intensified, and suddenly, every display in the command center flickered with the same rhythmic pulses. It's trying to communicate, Harry realized, feeling the familiar tug of Thalassia's consciousness through his link with Xanth. Dr. Vex's eyes widened. Can you understand it? Harry nodded slowly. Not words exactly, but impressions, concepts. It wants to meet with all of us. Commander Zale frowned. All of us? Everyone, Harry clarified. The Thalassians, the Galactic Council, even the corporate fleet and the Shadow Root agents. It's creating a space for us as we speak. As if on cue, the view screen shifted to show a massive amphitheater-like structure forming on one of the newly created islands. It was a marvel of organic architecture, with sweeping arches of crystalline material and platforms of living, bioluminescent tissue. Well, Dr. Vex said, a hint of excitement creeping into her professional demeanor, I suppose we shouldn't keep a sentient planet waiting, shall we? The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Transports were dispatched to bring representatives from all factions to the newly formed amphitheater. Harry and Xanth worked tirelessly, their unique bond allowing them to act as intermediaries between Thalassia's alien consciousness and the assembled delegates. As the various groups gathered in the massive structure, an air of tense anticipation filled the air. The corporate fleet representatives eyed the Thalassian security forces warily, while the Shadow Root agents kept to themselves, their expressions a mix of curiosity and caution. Harry and Xanth took their place at the center of the amphitheater, their hands clasped, bodies glowing with intensified bioluminescence. As the last of the delegates settled into place, a hush fell over the assembly. Then Thalassia spoke. It was unlike any form of communication Harry had ever experienced. Bioluminescent patterns danced across the amphitheater's walls, accompanied by subtle vibrations and a complex array of pheromones. Through their telepathic link, Harry and Xanth translated the planet's message for the others. Thalassia welcomes you, Harry began, his voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. It has awakened to find itself in a galaxy of wonders and conflicts. It seeks understanding, cooperation, and a place among the stars. Xanth continued, her tendrils swaying in harmony with the planet's rhythms. Thalassia offers its unique gifts, its evolutionary marvels, its healing properties, its ability to adapt and grow. In exchange, it asks for protection, recognition of its sovereignty, and the opportunity to contribute to galactic knowledge. The delegates listened in rapt attention as Harry and Xanth conveyed Thalassia's vision for the future. The planet proposed a carefully regulated system of scientific study with safeguards to prevent exploitation. It offered to share its remarkable abilities in exchange for a commitment to peace and mutual growth. As the planet's message concluded, Dr. Vex stepped forward, her eyes shining with impossibly strong excitement. On behalf of the Galactic Council, she said, her voice carrying across the amphitheater, I propose we designate Thalassia as a protected scientific reserve under Council jurisdiction. The potential benefits to our collective knowledge and well-being are immeasurable. Commander Zale nodded in agreement. The Thalassian people would be honored to act as the planet's primary guardians, he added, with support from a coalition of interested species, of course. The corporate fleet representatives, sensing the shifting tide, were quick to offer their cooperation. We're prepared to cease all unauthorized activities, their spokesperson announced. Instead, we propose a regulated partnership for sustainable research and development. Even the Shadow Root agents, moved by the planet's display and mindful of the amnesty offer, stepped forward. Our skills could be of use in protecting Thalassia from those who might seek to exploit it, their leader offered cautiously. As the negotiations continued, Harry felt a sense of awe at the unprecedented nature of the event. Here, gathered on a newly sentient planet, were representatives from across the galaxy, working together towards a common goal. Dr. Vex approached Harry and Xanth during a brief recess. "Your partnership," she said, gesturing between them. "It's remarkable. The level of interspecies cooperation you've achieved. It's given me an idea." She outlined her proposal for an interstellar symbiosis program, a Galactic Council initiative aimed at fostering human-alien cooperation to address complex galactic issues. "We'd like you two to be its first official ambassadors," she concluded. Harry and Xanth exchanged a look, their thoughts aligning through their telepathic bond. The possibilities stretched out before them, as vast and wondrous as the galaxy itself. As the negotiations drew to a close and the various delegations prepared to depart, Harry and Xanth stood at the edge of the amphitheater, looking out over the transformed landscape of Thalassia. The planet pulsed beneath their feet, its newfound sentience a tangible presence in the air around them. "What do you think the future holds?" Harry asked, his hand intertwined with Xanth's tendrils. Xanth's compound eyes reflected the bioluminescent glow of the surrounding structures. "I'm not sure," she replied, her thoughts merging with his. "But whatever it is, we'll face it together." As the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Harry and Xanth turned their gaze upward. The galaxy spread out above them, a tapestry of possibilities waiting to be explored. Their journey, it seemed, was only just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.